Hey folks, we're going to talk a little bit about the basics of how web applications work, what web servers do, and just sort of how we get all sorts of data around the internet here. So I've got NetBeans open, I've got my XAMPP control panel with the Apache server started, and then I've got my Git repository here, the 2454 from OCC repo up and going. So we're going to be working with the Git repository, and you're going to get one for each lab assignment. You're going to get one for each project as we keep moving forward with these. So we're going to practice with that with lab 2 this week, so don't worry too much about it, but I want to show you how it goes. And remember, if you ever forget where your repository is, you can use this Show and Explorer button, and it's going to open up your Windows Explorer here, or Finder in Macland, and it looks like the default is Documents, GitHub, name of the repository. So this is the folder I'm going to use when I make a new project here in NetBeans. So I'm going to come over to NetBeans, File, New Project. I want a new PHP application here, and I want to put it not in the htdocs folder. We did that the very first time because that's where stuff was hosted, but we want to do this the right way. We want to put all of our code, all of our project stuff somewhere else, and then we're going to deploy it to htdocs. So I can either hit browse and go find it, or I can just paste it in because I already had that path right here. And then let's call this one, we'll do this as week 2. This will be our week 2 project, and I'm going to put it actually inside of a folder called week 2. So repository folder, then week 2 for the project week 2, and we're good to go next. Now for my URL here, again, I had to change my port number for Apache from 80 to 5080 because I am using port 80. If you didn't do it, you don't need to change this step here, but I'm going to go here, http :5080 to get the port number in here, /localhost/week 2. So it's going to tell my computer when I go try and find this project, go to port 5080, then go look for it here. Then we want to make sure we copy the files from the sources folder over to, now we want to do this in htdocs, and I'm going to call this week 2. So I'm going to take all of my PHP stuff and put it into the htdocs week 2 folder. That way I can actually go and see stuff in the Apache web server. Oh, my URL is bad here. HTTP oh my goodness, nope, I put that 5080 in the wrong spot. I'm a little tired, folks, I'm sorry. Localhost :5080. There we go. So http :/localhost :5080. Oh, sorry, give me a second here. There we go. So the HTTP here tells the computer I want to use the hypertext transfer protocol. That's how we transfer web pages around. And then localhost is the address of my local computer. Right? I'm not going out to the internet, I'm just going locally here. And then :5080 is the port number, and then week 2 is essentially the folder inside of htdocs to go look up here. Right, and then we'll go next, and finish, and we'll get our starting project here. And then if we put it in the right location in the Git repository, the GitHub desktop client should say, hey, I see some new stuff here. I see an index.php file. I see some NB project stuff. Just let all that stuff change. If the Git ignore file changes, that's good too. We're ignoring that private folder. It's all well and good. So you can make a commit if you want, or you can wait till you actually write some code here. No big deal. I'm going to go and add to my source files. I'm going to go add a new, and I just want to do an HTML file. So this will be index.html will be my index file here. And you can get rid of some of this garbage, all the comments there we don't need. And then what do we do here? This is, hello world from HTML. Sure. And then we have our index PHP file with a little PHP code block here, and we could echo hello world from PHP file. And so I've got both of those ready to go. Again, I'm going to get rid of that comment because I don't want them there. And now when I run my project, I should have access to both the index PHP and the index HTML. Right? So I changed it to index HTML. So with an HTML file, this is purely a static page. Right? The only thing my Apache web server is doing is handing the requesting browser the file. It doesn't have to do any sort of processing here. Just, oh, here's your HTML file. So these are known as static pages. With PHP, or PHP hypertext processor pages, that's a big mouthful there, before the web server actually returns the content, it needs to go and process it here and do all of these code blocks. So this is more dynamic, and it's no longer a static page, it's a dynamic page, because the web server is going to go do something here, then give me back the page, which is really cool. So we can actually start doing things dynamically instead of giving you just purely static content, because static content all by itself will be really boring. It's not going to be a whole lot of good for us there. You can go through in the first chapter and read through the history of PHP and databases. It's not all that interesting for us here. But then it's going to take you through an example of the first application. We won't really get into that until we get into chapter 2. It's there if you wanted to see how it all works. But essentially, we're going to take an index file, stick a form in here, and if you haven't done HTML stuff before, that's okay. You can just pretty much copy-paste the forms and change a couple labels around. I'll show you how to do that. And then we send the form to our PHP file, and the PHP file gets the information from the form, does something with it, and then gives us back the results. The book will also use cascading style sheets. We're not going to bother with those. The goal of this course is web systems development, not making stuff look pretty. And cascading style sheets are just about making stuff look pretty. So again, that's you can pick up in another class here. We're not going to work through anything like that. So we're going to just work with PHP files and index forms. Now, if you wanted, you could put the form in a PHP file. It doesn't have to be an index HTML file. You're welcome to use an index PHP file, put your form in here. It doesn't have to do any PHP code blocks to be a PHP file. It would be perfectly fine if we just said hello from PHP file, or file, right? Not even files. Let me go back to my browser here and we'll refresh, right? Still here, still a PHP file. There was just no processing that had to happen here. So it's not really dynamic at this point because the web server is not doing anything. So yeah, this will take you through. So if we want to go and look then out here on, no, not the repo folder, in my C drive, let's go find C, find XAMPP, find htdocs. Inside that htdocs folder now is a week 2 folder. And you'll see both the index.html and index.php files have been copied out to htdocs, because that's what we told our project to do. So if things aren't loading for you, we want to make sure that files are getting copied out to htdocs. And then essentially whatever that name of the folder is going to be whatever comes after the slash. So that's slash week 2. And then inside of that folder, we're looking for index.php. Right? I can put other sorts of things in here if I wanted to as well. My web server could process those. It's pretty cool. All right, so that's running our PHP applications. If there are errors in your PHP applications, you're going to see all sorts of errors pop up. It's not the best at error handling, at least not yet. We'll get to that later. And then if you actually want to use the debugger in NetBeans, that's a couple chapters later as well. It takes a little bit of setup that we probably don't need because it's pretty good at showing you those errors. So we're going to wait on that until we get a couple chapters down the road. And then one other thing you want to look at as well is viewing the source of a file. So if you right-click your page, you can say View Page Source, or depending on your browser here, and it's going to show you the contents, the HTML that you were given. Right? You're not going to see any of that PHP stuff because you're just returned pure HTML, right? Even if something was processed. So if I go back here and put I'm just undoing here, putting my PHP block back in, and then refreshing my page here, we'll see again it's hello world from PHP file. And then let's right-click and view source again. We don't see any of that PHP code block, right? All we see is the HTML that was served to us here. And we can do the same with our HTML pages. It's just not going to be very interesting here. So if you want to load the book's examples, you can go and do that. You can download it from Murrock's site and load it up. It should work fine with the latest and greatest versions of XAMPP and PHP. I don't generally like people installing old versions because you're going to get security fixes and other nice things in the latest and greatest versions. So it should all work just fine, or you can just take a look at the book examples and go from there. And we should be pretty good to go. All right, that's about it for chapter 1. When we get to chapter 2, we'll actually start looking at writing our PHP applications, doing some fun stuff, sending data around and processing it. All right, folks, see you in the next video.